From the moment Cartoon Network launched on October 1st, 1992, it had one simple goal in mind: to serve as the safe haven for cartoons of future and past, and to become the bedrock for the innovation of animation. And ignoring a few untimely cancellations, I think this is exactly what it still has managed to be. From classic shows like Johnny Bravo and Ed, Edd n Eddy to more recent memories like Chowder and Regular Show, all the way up to modern story-driven epics like Steven Universe and Total Drama-Rama. Through good and bad, Cartoon Network continues to be the bastion of its namesake. But it's interesting to remember that not that long ago, there was an attempt to creatively gentrify the network's content. And this wasn't just a one-off thing, it was something that went on for 7.5 years, with numerous failures then leading to repeats of the same basic idea. I'm talking, of course, about the swift invasion in the early 2010s of live-action Cartoon Network programming. A sentence which literally does not make sense. It's hard to outstay your welcome when you really were never that welcome at all, and CN Real is perhaps the greatest evidence of that. Today I want to jump back to study this bizarre little trend, why it happened in the first place, and why it ultimately failed. And this voyage is possible thanks to today's sponsor, Raycon, the amazing wireless earbuds that make the perfect gift for the holidays, with premium quality but about half the price of other premium brands. If you go to buyraycon.com/Quinton, you'll be able to get 20% off of your first order. But you'll need to hurry because this offer is only available for a limited time. So once again, that's buyraycon.com/QUINTON. So when did Cartoon Network first decide to implement a block of live-action content? Well, most people would track it back to December 2006, when the first non-animated movie premiered on the station. But I believe there is evidence that there was an incremental plan to accomplish this long before that, tracing all the way back to June 2004, when Cartoon Network rebranded itself to just CN. We don't think about this a lot because it's a rebranding that still is in effect, but if the station was planning to transition into a wider array of content, then the first step would surely be to take the word cartoon out of their name. But why would they want to make an alteration to the station like this? Well, probably because they were jealous of their competitors. Children's TV in the early 2000s had become jam-packed with low-budget live-action material that kids simply loved. These cost pennies on the dollar to produce, but became immediate cultural hits that I'm sure many of you remember watching. Nickelodeon had a few of these, most notably Ned's Declassified, Zoe 101, Drake and Josh, iCarly. Hit subscribe, by the way. But it was over at the Disney Channel that things had really taken off. Lizzie McGuire, That's So Raven, Even Stevens, The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Wizards of Waverly Place, Hannah Montana, and not even to mention High School Musical, a low-budget TV movie which was such a massive hit that the franchise ended in the theaters. Also, did I mention you should subscribe? Because you should definitely subscribe. My birthday's in a few weeks and I've just been having a bad time, so it would mean a lot. The point is that it's pretty easy to see why Cartoon Network wanted to rip off Disney, and in more ways than one, as we're about to see. Because this leads us to CN's first non-animated, non-puppet production, the 2006 CN original movie, Re/An', which also served as a backdoor pilot to Out of Jimmy's Head, a TV show adaptation which aired 9 months later. I couldn't find a torrent of this baby, so once again a big thanks to Netflix for still mailing DVDs out to the 12 people who use that specific feature. Anyways, let's jump right into the juicy plot. Jimmy Roberts is a 12-year-old boy who has trouble saying no and is unable to stand up for himself, often being bullied by the popular kids. One day, Jimmy's class takes a field trip to Golly World, a famous theme park founded by a Golden Age animator named Milt Appleday, whose brain is rumored to be frozen and hidden somewhere at the park. Can you guess who Milt Appleday is supposed to be a subtle pastiche of? Anyways, while Jimmy is roaming around the park, he accidentally runs in front of the Disneyland Express and dies. He's soon operated on by Disneyland surgeons who find out that he has severe brain damage, but that they can save his life if they give him an experimental brain transplant.
You know that cooler that I always bring my lunch in every day?
No.
Well, I've kept the brain in it.
Next thing you know, Jimmy wakes up and discovers that he has been given the brain of Walt Disney. Don't think about it. And all of Walt's most famous fictional characters are now alive exclusively in his head. Like Golly Gopher, Dolly the Gopher, Crocco the Alligator, and of course, Vision. Jimmy, you should build a city where people aren't allowed to vote!
Fight the unions, Jimmy! They're all communists, Jimmy!
Jimmy, one of us was inspired by minstrel shows. Do you want to guess which one it was? It was all of us, Jimmy. That's the answer. Thanks to all of this, Jimmy now has to survive middle school while also trying to fight off the vivid hallucinations brought on him by the fact that someone put another person's brain inside of his skull. Now, again, keeping in mind that a lot of what I'm saying here is just my personal theories, I believe that the original idea for a CN Real block was to have a bunch of shows like Out of Jimmy's Head. Sitcoms reminiscent of their competitors' biggest hits, but occasionally with an animated twist. Think Lizzie McGuire, for instance. Something with just enough animation that they could easily justify why it could be included on this station. However, the same year that Out of Jimmy's Head was in production, something happened that totally changed the trajectory of the next 10 years of television. The 2007 Writers Guild of America strike. This specific union strike would last only 14 weeks, but the negative effect it had on the production of numerous shows was enough that the entertainment industry effectively rebelled against their own writers, either to prevent another event like this happening, or simply for petty revenge. This affected a lot of content which we've talked about in the last year or so. For instance, this is why Cory in the House didn't last past 2008, and why The Office has one really short season about halfway through. But more importantly, this is the event which suddenly kickstarted the rise of reality television on every single network entering into the 2010s, which removed writers from the room while building a sensationalism which attracted many new audience members. Cartoon Network would be no exception. And if there were any further plans for live-action scripted sitcoms, they were scrapped and replaced with what we now know as CN Real, a block dedicated entirely to reality shows for kids.
You're watching Cartoon Network. I'm Andrew WK. This is a visual aid. This is our Cartoon Network programming visual aid. The white represents the cartoons we show most every night. And this represents CN Real on Wednesday nights. Brain Rush, Destroy, Build, Destroy, The Othersiders, Survive This. It all starts at 8. Wednesday nights, CN Real, only on Cartoon Network.
Okay, so researching this part of the video proved to be much more difficult than I really anticipated. You see, I always remember tuning into this block, being fully aware of its existence, watching like 5 minutes, and then changing the station to something else. And I guess that's the universal experience everyone had, because no one taped these shows, and in almost every case, upwards of half of the episodes have no copies that anyone can get a hold of. This is one of the only cases of lost media I've ever seen where the lack of copies comes not from obscurity, but complete and total ambivalence, both to the people at the time and researchers now, who frankly don't give a damn about these terrible, terrible shows. So I want to send out a big thanks to the website archive.org for holding uploads of a lot of this stuff, and to my friend Pam Pizza for helping me find copies of some of the other stuff, because otherwise this wouldn't be a very long video. For most of the shows aired in this block, you'll probably quickly notice that they're essentially poorly conceived knockoffs of other more popular reality shows from other networks. For instance, here's the opening to episode 1 of the show Bobby Says.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Bobby J. Now check this out.
Yep, as I imagine you've probably guessed, it's America's Funniest Home Videos, but hosted by a child. That's every show we're about to look into. Blank, but with children. Welcome to Knockoff November 2020, everybody! One of the reasons so many of these shows are lost is because they had some of the shortest runs in the network's history. Bobby Says premiered in August 2009, was immediately canceled, and finished airing by September 2009, with few reruns after that. The station also purchased the rights to the Canadian reality show Survive This, but only aired it from June to August, not even premiering all of the episodes that they had been given the rights to. Even Brain Rush, one of the most heavily promoted shows that seemed like one of the more creative concepts, aired for a month and then basically disappeared. Out of the 6 shows which kickstarted CN Real, only 2 would be renewed for new seasons, with every other show being a critical flop and a ratings disaster. So let's talk about these 2. Destroy Build Destroy and Dude, What Would Happen? These 2 shows specifically were a pain in the ass to get copies of. They have no torrents, no bootleg copies, and the only place you can still buy them is Microsoft.com, where you can watch them on your computer with the Microsoft Media Player. But they don't have every season, and when you try to screen record, the software blocks it. See how it's black? It's not supposed to look like that. The software is stopping me from making a copy of this that I can edit for this video. I tried everything I could to get around this, and the easiest solution I could come up with on short notice was to hook my laptop up to my TV, point a camera at my TV, and record it that way. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we've come back around to this bullshit, and I don't like it either, but I hope you can forgive me for this short part of the video. Dude, What Would Happen was essentially the network's attempt to create a version of Mythbusters, with a similar gravitas and explosive attitude. The show features a cast of 3 teenagers who will posit various what-ifs, which leads to experiments and various wizardry accomplished by the crew of silent adults with brains. Memorable episodes include the one where they deliver a pizza via bicycle slingshot, one where they fill a Volkswagen up with water and fish and prove that it's still drivable, and any segment where they blow stuff up. Dude, What Would Happen truly is designed for the child who doesn't listen to the words in Mythbusters, but just likes seeing stupid stuff happen, and I'll admit that I actually got a little into it this time around. But the more I watched, the more it felt like there was only so much of the show that had real value. The 8th grade energy gets a little grating after a while, and it really ends up lacking direction. With Mythbusters, the hosts are scientists, engineers, special effects professionals, so while there's chaos, it's a finely controlled and directed chaos. Dude, What Would Happen just loses track of what's going on. Like, what if we have a skydiver, he lands on a pizza? What if we shoot a couch into a lake and we hit a bunch of floaty boats? What if we drop some pudding on a big photo of your face? We're gonna set up meat on a table and chop it with our hands! And maybe it's just that I never feel like taking in more of these shows than I have to, that I didn't even finish the first season. You kind of get the gist by like episode 3. But if any show was the undisputed centerpiece to this block, it was Destroy, Build, Destroy. I'll be totally transparent. I remember being very skeptical of CN Real, with all my friends agreeing when we talked about it, but Destroy, Build, Destroy? Oh, we could watch some Destroy, Build, Destroy. But the thing is, I don't really remember that much about specifics, just moments that kind of stick out in my mind's eye. And I guess that's what they were going for, because the show was marketed to basically overstimulate you with an endless barrage of, buzzwords?
Extreme Sports Showdown, Chris Cole, Shreddy, Dakota Rose, Shreddy, Small Cop Car, Destroyer,
And I guess that was a smart move, because here we are talking about it. Destroy, Build, Destroy was the station's take on the then popular show Junkyard Wars, except it features Andrew WK, so it was infinitely better in every single way. At the start of every episode, we're introduced to 2 teams of kids, who then introduce themselves in pre-filmed segments and try to make you think they're cool.
What's up, I'm Chaz, I'm 13 years old, and I'm here to lay the beat down on the dirt bikers.
What's up? I'm Slade. My dad's Lil John.
What?
Yeah!
After that bizarreness, they introduce the white kids, who try to act equally cocky, but it's like, why even try, dude? Because even if you win and they lose, at the end of the show, they get to go home and their dad's still gonna be Lil Jon. Coolest fucking thing I've ever heard. My dad is Lil Jon, what a fucking own. The two teams are then told the pitch of what they're going to be building later in the episode. For instance, in this episode, they're building boats which will squirt water guns to play one of those water carnival games. However, before they build, each team makes a choice on how they want to destroy or wreck the other team's base vehicle, trying to set a disadvantage for the building challenge. The fun part is that the kids who win the coin toss always go with the explosive, and then the second kids pick something that seems mundane that actually does a significant amount of damage and sometimes like pancakes the other vehicle. Now obviously, like with Dude, What Would Happen, the kids aren't really doing any building themselves. They're coming up with ideas and themes, and then the crew members are working with these dangerous hunks of burning, smashed metal filled with broken glass. So really, the swift advantage does come down to how good or bad your luck is in terms of the destruction portion, and how much material you have left to work with in the end. Somewhere in the middle, there's usually a mini competition to give one team or the other a significant disadvantage, usually boiling down to more destruction being done to their vehicle. In the end, the competition plays out, the underdog usually pulls ahead somehow, and the winning team gets to destroy the losing team's creation. Thus, destroy, build, destroy. My favorite part of this show is that, there is competition throughout the episodes, but in the end, there are no losers. Well, I guess that's not true. The winners each get $1,000. But if you lose, you get to watch something explode. Like, you shouldn't be mad, right? Kind of begs the question, what do they do with the crap that they don't blow up at the end? Does it sit around in a landfill? Get sold for parts? Why not destroy both things? I mean, the kids don't want to take that shit home. If there's any charm present in the show, it's there because of Andrew WK. He just brings this absolute chaotic energy, which is super necessary since the rest of the people on the show are usually 12-year-olds with no social skills, and as much as the show screams, grr, it's 2009, Andrew makes you think, yeah, it's 2009, but don't be a hater, we're having a good time. Although, like all these other shows, you should manage your expectations if you're going to rewatch it, as it is something meant for tweens that you probably will find a little less than bingeable. Up to this point, we've dived into 5 shows which were featured on CN Real at its first transmission, but there's still one left which I saved for the end entirely on purpose. That being The Othersiders, the Cartoon Network live-action ghost show. Out of all the shows that aired on CN Real in 2009, this is the one I remember talking about the most with my friends. And not unironically, we all thought it was really bad, but we loved it so much. Around this time, I remember I had gotten really into ghost shows. I think Ghost Hunters was off the air by then, but Ghost Adventures was just starting off, and we took that show really seriously. When I watched Ghost Adventures, I truly believed that it was something scientific, as if these guys were constantly moments away from finding irrefutable evidence that ghosts are real. And we used to stay up late to watch these live marathons they did, because it felt like at any instant the world would be changed by these investigators. Then The Othersiders aired, and I went, okay, this is bullshit. And here's why. I could believe that experienced professionals could prove that ghosts are real. I could even believe that hyper-obsessed adults could do it. But the idea that ghosts were going to be proven to be real by the fucking kids from my math class, no. I did not buy that.
My name is Zach, I'm 13 years old, and I'm the tech manager on the team. I like being the tech manager because I'm a techie and I like playing around with all the new gear we get.
Some people in Southern California like to go surfing. We do something different.
I get to handle all this really cool equipment like walkies, which are pretty much my favorite because you feel like you're in an army base or like in a war or something like that.
If it wasn't for school, I'd be a full-time ghost hunter.
The Othersiders is probably the worst ghost show I've ever seen, solely on the virtue of it being really dull. well. When you really start to break it apart, the core thing that makes the difference is just the presentation. In most good, watchable ghost shows, evidence is dispersed throughout the program to make it more suspenseful and fun. EVPs will be played back as they happen, and if anything nuts goes on, it will be repeated a bunch of times in a row. In the Othersiders, all of the evidence is saved until the last 5 minutes, where it's all presented and discussed by the cast. This means that most of the show is the characters collecting said evidence, going from room to room not knowing if they found anything until they leave eventually. So most of every episode just boils down to nearly blind wandering around poorly lit identical rooms until the episode is basically over. But I'll admit that I found this to be one of the most entertaining shows to revisit, because as I've said in the past, I love shows where nothing happens. And The Othersiders isn't just a show where nothing happens, it's a show where nothing happens, where the cast remains confidently cocky that a lot has in fact just happened.
If you're here, can you give us a sign?
Go.
That's freaky.
I feel kind of bad for the kids in this show because it seems like most of them have that attachment to this, which I remember having at that age. You know, just that special feeling about accomplishing something that makes you really bummed out if someone takes it away from you, so you just become defiant even if your words stop making sense. So when it comes down to discussing if they've single-handedly proved that ghosts exist, the debates about it get rather moody and personal when they shouldn't, because the evidence they come up with is terrible. Almost every EVP they come up with is not actually even an EVP, it's just a recording of empty static, which they really want to be an EVP.
I think I know what it says.
What?
It's cold.
Do you hate it here?
It sounds nothing like it's cold. It's just a noise. It clearly is a noise. We're just like listening, trying to make words out of it.
And every once in a while, there is a good EVP, but it always feels like one of the adults like dubbed something in to make them all feel better.
If there's someone here with us, please show us a sign or do something previous that you've done before.
And whenever their evidence is lacking, they circle back around to this defense that their ghosts just suck. Like, they got good evidence, but the ghosts are just bad at being ghosts.
There's definitely something trying to communicate. Even if we can't hear it, it's still trying to communicate, so.
Looks like it has wings, kind of. Yeah. This could be a spirit, maybe a tortured soul, trying to communicate with us. And that seems like a more reasonable explanation than a bug or a piece of the ceiling or something like that.
The best scene in any episode is probably the one where they're filming at the Lincoln Heights jail and they capture something that they think is an apparition, and it's clearly just a guy.
Oh my God.
Freaky. We saw that.
But they're all confident that it's a ghost and that they've just proven that ghosts exist.
And it looks too fat to be an actual person. It looks like
definitely not an actual person.
Yeah.
It's just like an outline of light.
I don't know, I'm kind of iffy, but I want to lean towards haunted, because it definitely wasn't one of us running by one of those cameras.
Motherfuckers, it's just a guy! It's notable to point out that while most ghost shows film from, say, 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., this show features kids being chaperoned around by adults, who I presume the cameramen are. And based on the episodes, it seems they're usually out of there by like midnight. So one of the reasons that their evidence is so terrible is that it's pretty clear that they have around 4 hours of footage to work with instead of the usual 12. But I will admit, every few episodes, they do come up with something that is pretty impressive. Impressive enough to be on a real ghost show, I mean. But when I was a kid, that didn't make me think more of the show. In fact, it kinda had the exact opposite effect. Like, if this bunch of kids, who clearly don't know what they're doing, can find evidence purely by luck, then it feels totally unspectacular that some muscular adult grifter can do the exact same thing. In other words, The Othersiders wasn't just a bad show for me. It was a show that was so bad that it dragged every other show in its genre down with it. And it's funny how time works, because rewatching this today, in 2020, all I could find myself thinking is, God, I wish I was watching cartoons right now. So let's get back to the topic at hand. How did Cartoon Network get to a moment like this, and how did they eventually get back on track? Well, CN Real was a huge failure and was gone within 11 months, but the general brand of Cartoon Network live-action material did not face the same fate. Months later, Unnatural History and Tower Prep premiered on the station. Both shows were teen dramas and are apparently remembered fondly by people who saw them, but Tower Prep specifically gained the most admiration, with many critics arguing that it was the best live-action creation the station had managed to make. However, and it's weird to start this sentence with however, the show took specific measures to develop its female characters and grew a heavily female audience, and at least according to the creator, this was a big problem for Cartoon Network management at the time. The company wanted to explore long-term merchandise investments and held the opinion that, quote, girls don't buy toys. And so these two shows were quickly canceled and replaced by Level Up, a show about someone finding a portal into World of Warcraft. I've decided not to watch any of these shows. They all sound like things that should stay in 2011. Finally, in 2012, the last two shows in this category aired. Incredible Crew, a comedy show created by former R. Kelly contributor Nick Cannon, and fuck. This show again? Why does this always come up? I'm tired of talking about the annoying orange Cartoon Network show. I would argue that the thing that finally put this silly trend out of its misery was the 2013 hit show Steven Universe. Like Adventure Time before it, the show became a mass cultural phenomenon overnight, and was essentially the thing that ended the slump which the station had been in for 3 years, and despite its heavily female audience. All this time, they had been trying to fabricate sensational hits by copying their competitors and going against their own DNA, and it was another animated show that ended up saving the station. And after Steven Universe aired, all attempts to remove cartoons from Cartoon Network ended. In 2014, The Annoying Orange ended production, and since then, there has never been another live-action Cartoon Network show, although it's always possible that that might change. When I was rewatching these shows for this video, it did stick out to me how quite a few had a little charm that did make them at least a little fun to revisit, but they mostly ended up feeling like Lincoln Log shows. Once I explain how it works and the basic structure, what else do you want me to say? Furthermore, most of these fully failed to hold any originality. Out of Jimmy's Head was Ned's Declassified, but worse. The Othersiders was Ghost Adventures, but worse. Dude, What Would Happen was Mythbusters, but much, much, much worse. And you start to wonder, if these shows had never existed, what content would have filled their slots? Because it almost certainly could not have been described as the content of another station, but less good. That's not how you describe Regular Show or OKKO or Uncle Grandpa. I mean, I guess the Lego Show, but you know, that doesn't fit the positive messaging of this part of the video, so just pretend I'm right, damn it. I guess in the end, while it feels like a totally redundant thing that I shouldn't even have to say, the future of Cartoon Network will always lie in cartoons. And anyone who forgets this will be cursed to repeating past mistakes. Adult Swim doesn't count though. We're keeping Eric Andre, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. Okay, so now we're at the end of the video here. I wanted to tell a little bit of a funny anecdote. When I was working on this video, I realized that the guy who hosts Destroy, Build, Destroy, the guy who hosts that show, Andrew WK, I realized he's like a musician, and I listen to his stuff sometimes because it shows up in my Spotify shuffle. And so I had absolutely no idea when I was working on this, that this guy who hosted this show I remember from when I was a kid is also a musician. So I started when I was writing this video, I put on some of that music and I was jamming out, trying to, writing this video in my head. I'm setting up the sponsor, you guys get that, right? Once again, a massive thanks to Raycon for making this video possible by being today's sponsor. As I've said in the past, Raycon is an essential part of my day in terms of getting my creative juices flowing. I just put them in, play my favorite tunes, and start writing videos in my head. With 6 hours of playtime, Bluetooth pairing, and a comfortable, sensible design, Raycon is the earbud of today and tomorrow. Raycon earbuds make the perfect gift for the holidays, and right now is the perfect time to get a pair. So go to buyraycon.com/Quinton to get 20% off of your first order, but that's a limited time offer, so you have to act right now. Once again, that's buyraycon.com/QUINTON. Does anyone else feel like weirdly great this week? Like I feel amazing, and it's like I don't know why. You know, what happened recently that would make me feel so good? But yeah, I'm having a great November. I hope you guys are too. And I'm hoping this feeling sticks around. Who knows if it will, but like I said, I'm feeling great. This is gonna be the last video in November, but in December we got a lot of great stuff lined up. I got a few collabs in the pipeline, a few videos with other YouTubers, and I hope those work out. And I think you guys are gonna be really excited to see who I'm about to get on the channel. So if you don't want to miss that, remember to hit subscribe. And of course, we have Knockoff November coming up, which I do every December. Which is another reason to subscribe. And of course, the third and most important reason is, as I promised, if we get to 400,000 subscribers, by December 31st, then I am going to kickstart 2021 with a massive iCarly video, a big thing. I've started plotting out. I think it's going to be huge. But we've gotten so far along that I need to start planning for stretch goals, because it's pretty obvious we're going to reach that first goal. So I've decided our first stretch goal is if we can get to 410,000 subscribers by the end of the year, then I am going to make a video about Animorphs. I'm going to buy every Animorphs book, read them all, and make a massive video about that. Now, I don't know how long that'll take. It might be summer before I'm done with that project. But once again, I'll only do that if we hit 410,000 subscribers. And I'm looking out to you guys. What should I do for 420? Because somehow that's realistic right now. If we can get to 420,000 subscribers, what should I do? You know. So leave suggestions in the comment box down below on, what that next stretch goal should be, because I want to see if we can do it for real. So I want to hear what you guys think about that. With that, I've been Quinton Reviews, and that's all you need. I never know when 20 seconds is up. Figure it has to be by now, right?